Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
It's Monday, and all of our week today is Christmas.
Oh, ho, ho.
All of our guests today, including Elliot Friedman, standing by, are sponsored by Passant Motors. There are huge holiday savings at Passant Motors. No GST, no gas, no payments. Check out the great offers at Passant Motors, BASANT Motors.com, as we bring in Elliot Friedman from Hockey Night in Canada and the 32 Thoughts podcast. Elliot, thanks for doing this, sir. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. I'm just doing the waiver tweet right now. Nobody from the Canucks, just so you know.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, and by the way, I don't know what's going on in your life right now, but I guarantee you're healthier than either of us.
Yeah.
I have a throat issue. My voice isn't great, and Rick has a sty on his left eye. So if things aren't perfect today, please forgive us, okay? Please understand.
That was a good spiel, but he actually backed out of the Zoom when you did that, so he didn't hear any of what you
Oh,
just
really?
said. Yeah.
Okay, is he still around?
I think he's rejoining the Zoom momentarily. So I'm assuming when he hit send on the tweet, might have booted him out of the Zoom.
You ever do that, Donnie? You talk to somebody on the phone for 60 seconds, and then you realize you just were talking to yourself for 60 seconds?
Do you do that a lot?
Lots. It happens to me all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, you come up with something.
You're yelling. You're
you're having a big argument.
Are you there?
You're making a good point, and they're actually not there.
They're not there.
It's frustrating. We got Elliot now? Have we got him? Elliot, there he is. There we go. I was just saying both of us are hurting.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, my voice isn't 100%. Rick's got a sty on his left eye. I don't know if you can see it from where you are. So we're not 100%, so forgive us if we make a mistake or two.
You know, I gotta tell you, Rick, I hate to do this to you, but like that's a hygiene problem. You know, that's trouble.
It is not. I Googled what it is, and nowhere did it say it was hygiene. And what are you supposed to put on your eyes, Elliot? The makeup? You got the makeup, not me. Come on.
You know what? I'll tell you that makeup. Okay, I'll give you that one, Rick. Makeup can be a factor, but if you've ever seen Knocked Up, like that's a concern, bud.
All right. Nikita Zadorov, what can you tell us about him? He's in the news here in Vancouver because of the third period fight and the instigator penalty against Chicago yesterday. But not too long before he's about to become a free agent. What can you tell us, Elliot, about the negotiations, if any?
Well, first of all, that's one of the things that I think people really like about Zadorov. I don't think anybody would be surprised that he would do that yesterday. Your best player takes a hit like that, and Zadorov, you know, there's this whole debate about should anyone have to fight after a clean hit or anything like that. And I understand, like, sometimes it makes me crazy too. But when you're on a team and you see Zadorov react the way he did, it makes everybody feel great. You know, people like him. There's a penalty for going after our best player. And Zadorov plays hard. Like, not every one of these plays you're going to see Zadorov in is going to be 100% clean, but there is that fear factor. Look, I think Jim Rutherford and Patrick Allvin went into this with their eyes wide open. They knew what Zadorov's situation was. As Rick likes to always say, the agent there is the assistant general manager of the Canucks. So I don't think anybody here is unprepared for what is to come. Like, for me, there's one saying I have, Don. It's the surest predictor of future behavior is past behavior. And if you take a look at some of the previous contracts that Milstein has done, I've taken a look. I did hear in Calgary the issue was term. I don't think they ever really got far down the road. I don't think that the Zadorov and the Flames were on the same page when it came to term. And I look at one of Milstein's previous deals, Zub in Ottawa, and it's 6 years at 4 something. And I'm not saying it's exactly what he'd be looking at, but I think it's the template.
Elliot, big news out of Ottawa right now. They just fired DJ Smith. Jacques Martin is going to take over. You're not surprised, Elliot?
Well, I think they got kind of boxed in there, to be perfectly honest. I think that I'm just looking at it now while I'm on Twitter with you. It's. I just don't think it was a situation. I think Ottawa tried to wait as long as they possibly could, guys. I think it was that simple. They didn't. I don't think this is something they really wanted to do. I think it was something they felt that they were boxed into a corner and had to do. And I think if it was their choice and they could have handled it a different way and gone to the end of the season, they absolutely would have. But unfortunately, sometimes you get boxed into a corner and you have to make the change. I am a little surprised about Martin. I think this is a bit of a unique situation. They say Martin is the interim head coach. He's 71 years old. I don't know if he wants to do it full time, but I just think Ottawa got boxed into a situation where there was not much they could do.
And Elliot, Daniel Alfredson is going to join the staff as an assistant as well. Can I ask you about Chris?
I know I'm not. Just to let you know, I'm not surprised at that, Rick. I think Alfredson played a really big role in Martin coming back. He's a huge Martin fan. I'm not in the least bit surprised by that.
Okay. Elliot, I want to ask you about Chris Tanev. He's back in the Calgary lineup tonight. Markstrom as well. How do you see a Tanev trade happening? There's a ton of teams after him. The Canucks still have interest. What do you think is going to happen to Chris Tanev in Calgary?
Well, I think that he is going to get traded at some point. I think they took a look at extending him. I just don't think it's very likely. I do think he gets dealt at some point. The fact he took the one puck off the face and then he took the big hit from Ross Colton. I think there's a delicate dance there for the Calgary Flames, and that is the way that Tanev plays. He's never going to play any softer than that. And he can get hurt. So I think you weigh that in the middle of all of this. I just look at him and I say, look, I think Toronto's really interested. I think you guys are really interested. I think there's other teams that are very interested. I can see a team like the Devils. Rick, I think you've reported that before. I think you're right about that. But put it this way, I think teams kind of know what it's going to take. I think, Zadorov was a third and a fifth. I think Tanev is minimum a second, potentially a first, depending on how, there's a lot of traction that can push the price up. But I think you're looking minimum of a second. I think one of the questions everybody kind of wonders here is, are the Flames going to allow anyone to talk to him in advance to see if they can extend him? I think that's going to be one of the questions.
Elliot, we talk about this a lot. We argue about it a lot, actually. Canucks are second place in the overall standings. Patrick Allvin has made 5 trades since September. Would he be a relatively early Jim Gregory GM of the Year candidate?
Well, for media attention, he'd probably win it by a mile, yes, because you guys are doing things. I mean, the one thing you remember, Don, is that award is voted on, I think, after the second round of the playoffs. So it usually goes with playoff success. Like if the Canucks win a couple rounds or they get deep into the second round, I think absolutely. But the way that award is voted, it generally means you have to go somewhere in the postseason for you to be considered a winner.
Phil Kessel, I don't know what the latest is on him. Last I heard, thinking about playing over in Switzerland. If this is it for him in the NHL, close to 1,000 points, close to 1,300 games, what would his legacy be?
Well, I think that's going to be one of the most fascinating Hall of Fame votes of all time, because as you said, only guy ever to play 1,000 games in a row. As you said, 1,300 points. He's got, 3 Stanley Cups. The one in Vegas last year, he wasn't a full-timer, but he was a very big part of 2 in Pittsburgh. And I'll tell you this, like one of the wildest characters, they broke the mold after they made that guy, Don. It's like, someone used to joke with me, those kids in school that have to work really hard to get the best average they can, and they really despise the kids who get great averages, even though they don't even try. Phil Kessel was one of those kids that everybody else hated because you could walk into the gym, he'd be reading a magazine for 20 minutes and he'd lift more than any other person. And just an incredible natural talent and a really funny personality. And, one of the things I will say too about Kessel, he has refused to talk about this. but one of the most incredibly generous people privately when it comes to hospital visits and things like that. Like, just apparently, I knew people when he got traded from Toronto, they wanted to do stories about it, and he called, and when they asked him for permission, he said, no, you're not allowed to talk about it. So a lot of those stories got untold.
Elliot, thanks for this. A few transmission problems with Zoom, but we got her done. And Merry Christmas, by the way. We got him?
Volume's gone.
Soon as I said transmission problems, we had more transmission problems.